and put that in the text chat. Maybe you couldn't get your gears to turn correctly. So make a real observation, a meaningful observation, or if you had a problem, you can go ahead and write that in the text chat as well. Okay, hi Dane, thank you for joining us. Today we are looking at our fans, and I want you guys to make a meaningful observation on the white line up there in red. Looks like two of you are trying to write over each other. I want a meaningful observation. Not there's red, there's gray. Something that actually means something. All right, so let's take a look at the observations that you guys have. We have the fans are big enough to blow a little bit of air. They are. I observed the same thing. If I blow my fan or move my handle quick enough, a little bit of air does circulate. Someone wrote, I see the crank move and also the gears can move. Very good. The main purpose of building this fan versus building some of the other objects out of the Connects book is because you can actually see the gears working. As I turn my blue handle, let me hold this up, actually. Okay, as I'm turning my blue handle down here, I can see gear number 1 turning in the opposite direction of gear number 2. And gear number 2 and the fan blades are turning in the same direction. Now, if I had a motor attached to this, it would work like a fan in your house, in your computer, above your oven, to blow the air out. It's the same principle with the gears. All right, let's check out some other observations here. The handle turns, so it makes the gear and the blades turn. Good job. The teeth of the gears interact, so the fan turns. That was mine. The crank and the fan move. The base of the fan has to be tall so the propellers do not touch the ground. Very good. Now, what would happen if for some reason our base was either not this tall or not as wide? If it wasn't as tall, the blades would hit the ground or the base that it was standing on, and they would get stuck. They wouldn't be able to move. And if it wasn't as wide, then the fan would probably rock side to side and fall over because of the movement of the gears. And let's take a look at our last observation here. Everything seems to be connected so it is stable and doesn't fall apart. Very good. If everything clicked together using your connects, then everything is connected and nothing will fall apart. Okay, would anyone else like to share their fans on the screen just so I can see your fan? If you do, we're just going to go in order. So Isabella, your hand was raised first. I'm going to turn my camera off. You should be able to click the button that says OK. Hello, Isabella. All right, let's see your fan. Hold it up. Very nice. Isabella made the same fan that I made, the one with the two smaller gears. Great job. Thank you very much for sharing it. Okay, I believe Dane, your hand was up. Go right ahead and share. Very nice. It looks like Dane chose to make the larger fan, the larger gear. Great job. Thank you for sharing, Dane. Okay, Clinton, I think I saw your hand up. Let's take a look at your fan. Awesome. Great job. Clinton also made one with a larger gear. Fantastic. Did anyone else want to share theirs? Sorry if I missed your hand the first time. All right, Kyle, go right ahead. Very nice. Kyle also made the 2-gear fan. Great job, Kyle. Thank you for sharing. And Lindsay, let's see what yours looks like. Fantastic. And Lindsay also made the fan with the 2 smaller gears. Thank you guys very much for sharing your fans with us. It's always fun to see what you guys look like and how your projects turned up. Now, I need to apologize for last week's homework. There seems to have been a fatal flaw in the website that I had sent you guys to. It worked perfectly fine a few weeks ago when I checked it for class to make sure all of my links were working. So lesson learned to me is make sure I check it the day that I give the assignment. Lesson learned to you guys is sometimes technology does not cooperate with us. So thank you to those of you who pointed it out to me. Hopefully the rest of you got my email before you spent too much time getting frustrated over the homework assignment. This week's homework we will not have that problem because it is not on the computer. So we are going to spend some time today talking about robots. We are going Isabella said hers didn't work with just one thing. Fantastic. So if you were able to do part of it, I am going to look at them and give you guys feedback, but I wanted to make sure you don't spend too much time on them because it was being difficult. All right, well, here we go. We are going to look at how humans are similar to robots and how that helps scientists when they are creating robots. Now, today we are going to look at humans and robots. If we have time, we are going to look at how scientists have used robots and compare them to other animals. If not, we are going to work on that in a different class. So go ahead and look up at your PowerPoint screen. It says, are we like robots? Well, raise your hand if you think humans or robots are modeled after humans? Some robots. Okay, a couple of you. The robots. Oh, are you able to hear me now, Dane? Oh, Dane just said he's having a hard time hearing, so let's check. I'm just going to send you a quick little survey. Can everybody hear me? Oh, that's good. Perfect. Okay. Fantastic. We're going to look at how the human body moves. So I have a couple of questions I want you to think about. And we're going to answer these together. Question 1 is, what senses or sensors do we have on the human body? Now I want to see what you guys think are the answers to these. So we're not going to use the whiteboard today. We are going to use the notepad. On the notepad, only I can see your answers. So let me set this up for you. The question is, what sensors or senses do we have on the human body? Now I want you to go back to your screen where you can see the 4 big windows. So you can see my picture, the PowerPoint, the whiteboard, and then you can see one on the bottom left. Right now it might show a picture of a map. On the little purple toolbar above the picture of a map, or it might be blank, on the bottom left-hand side, you should see 4 icons. I would like you to look at the second icon, which looks like a yellow notebook. If you put your mouse over it, it's going to say Notepad. Go ahead and click on the notepad, please. And you should see a question from me. What sensors or senses do we have on the human body? I want to know what you think. You are going to click Add Note on the bottom of that square. And you are going to give me 3 senses or sensors that we have on the human body. So go ahead and hit Add Note. You're going to type in the 3 that you can think of, either senses or sensors, and then click Save. And then I should be the only one who can see your answer. If you don't know, Stephen, you can just put a question mark. That's fine. Okay, I see some answers coming across here. All right, all of the answers that came across are correct. Some senses, we have 5 senses: a sense of touch, smell, hearing, sight, and taste. Some things on our body that would be considered sensors would be your fingertips. When you touch something, you use your fingertips to sense it or feel it. Your eyes, your ears, your taste buds, or your tongue, those would all be things that are sensors. Now let's look at the next question up here. I'm going to add a new question. Our new question is, what causes our arms and legs to move? Now these are questions that I'm not necessarily looking for you to know the answer to right now. I'm just looking to see what you know. So for those of you who just joined us, we are on our notepad. So if you look at your screen, Joseph and Luke, on the bottom left-hand side, that rectangle or square is probably blank or has a map in it. And the purple toolbar above that, there's a yellow notepad. It's the second icon. Click on that. And I'm putting some pre-assessment questions up here to see what you guys know. So go ahead and type in your answer, or hit Add Note, type in your answer, and then hit Save. So you see a couple of answers coming across here. The four that I see are correct. So if you were someone who already sent yours, great job. Okay, basically most of you got the main one I was looking for, which was your brain. Your brain is the control center of your body. It causes your arms and your legs to move. Now, some of you got that, and some of you went in a different direction, which is great as well. You put muscles, joints, tendons. What else do I see up here? Nerves. Impulses from your neurons. These are all fantastic answers. You guys are certainly well on the way to understanding how your body, which we are going to relate to how robots move. Now this one is a little bit trickier. So read the whole thing first. All right, here we go. I want you to explain. Does not have to be complete sentences. Explain how your brain is involved in walking towards your mother if she calls you for dinner. So think about what has to happen in your body when your mother calls you for dinner. All right, Lindsay, fantastic. Thumbs up to your answer. All right, most of you look like you're definitely on the right track here. And communication is key here. Our ear gets the noise from our mother. It goes through the eardrum, the vibrations, gets to our brain. The brain then sends a message to our legs and our arms. We use our arms when we walk as well. And tells them how to move, which direction to move to get to your mother. Great job. You guys are way ahead of where I thought we would be. So let's go ahead and look at our PowerPoint today. And we're going to do some skimming through here. based on where we are. So right now, there are 4 major parts of the human body that are related to movement. 5 of these, and we have 5 senses. So we have our sensors, our muscles, our brains, and our nervous system. All 4 of those things are related to how the body moves. And we use our 5 senses either to help us move or help us observe our surroundings. So let's talk about our muscles first. Our muscles allow us to move around. Okay, well, a robot doesn't have muscles. But a robot does have things like the pegs of our fan. Those are sort of like the muscles. They allow for movement. But how do muscles actually help you move? Well, muscles contract, which means they bunch up together. Like if you were to flex your bicep. Go ahead and make a muscle with your arm. When you, quote unquote, make a muscle, you're tightening your arm. When the muscle bunches up together, they pull on the little cords of your body called tendons. And the tendons pull up on the bones and make that part of your body move. So if you look at the picture to the right here, the red is the bicep muscle. The tendon is the little white stringy looking part of the picture. And then you have the gray, which is your bone. So the tendon is moving your bone, but the tendon doesn't move on its own. It's connected to a muscle. In a robotic structure, you need to have pieces that mimic the muscle, the tendons, and the bones. In humans, we have a brain. Our brain makes all of the decisions that we make every day. It makes conscious decisions like, ooh, what do I want for dinner? But it also makes unconscious decisions like breathing. If our brain does not tell our body to breathe, our body will die. Okay? It's just a simple something that has to happen. It's an unconscious decision our brain is making. In a robot, the brain is a computer system. Sometimes that computer system is very basic, and it just does one thing. A robot that is on an assembly line. It will do the same exact thing the entire day, week, month, year, life of this robot. There's no decision making in there, but there is a computer telling the brain how to perform that specific function. As robots are evolving, the computer system in them are becoming more like a human brain. Our brain uses sensors and information from those sensors to make decisions. For example, if you smell a pizza, your nose doesn't know what the smell is. It just takes that smell in. It tells the brain about the smell. And then your brain figures out that it's pizza or that it's a hot dog, whatever it might be. So robots are becoming smarter and being able to make those sorts of decisions. I'm hoping we have time today for me to show you about some robots of the future that they are working on. The nervous system of our body, our spinal cord, our nerves. I have all of the nerves, well, most of the major nerves labeled here in the picture on the right, are like the wires of a robot. The wires of the robot are needed to send the electrical impulses so that the robot can move and can get electricity all the way from the tips of its feet all the way up to the arms that might be moving. Our body uses the nervous system to do this. Excuse me. So let's put it all together. You're a human, and you see a snake on the ground. Let's break up what we know. Your eyes see the snake and sense it. They get the information. Your eyes send the image through the nervous system to your brain. Your brain figures out, I hate snakes and I am deathly afraid of them. So it decides it's scared. Your brain sends a signal through the nervous system to the muscles in your legs and run away. Your muscles move and you start running. All of this is less than a second. Robots can't really do this yet. Right now, they need someone who will control them. They need either someone using a remote control or they need a pre-programmed set routine that they follow. However, that is all changing. We are going to look at an awesome robot, and I'm going to skip ahead a little here. Called a personal training robot. Up on your PowerPoint screen right now, you see the robots of the future. They could be dinosaurs, they could be ducks. They're all sorts of different robots. Oh, Dane says he's seen these. Well, you must be way up on your news, Dane. I'm impressed. These robots are being developed by Yale, and they are pretty cool. They are going to be used to learn language and teach that language to children or adults who need assistance. So let's pretend you moved to the United States from Spain. You only speak Spanish, and you move to a community where there are no other people to help you learn Spanish. The idea is these robots will be able to interact with you and teach you English. They're also hoping these robots can be used for kids who have behavior issues or learning disabilities to break down what needs to happen to help that student learn. They're also hoping that they can teach and motivate kids to do exercise. Now, obviously, a little duck squawking after you, telling you to run 10 laps, is not really going to be much fun. But the hope is that they can encourage kids through fun manipulatives or fun robots to do things. Now, these robots, part of the problem or part of the challenge of building a robot like this is the robot needs to be very smart. It needs to mimic the human brain a lot closer than any robot has in the past. If there was a robot who was teaching me Spanish, because I know English, but I can't speak Spanish. So let's say he's going to teach me Spanish. It would have to be able to move at different speeds if I was a quick learner or a slow learner. It would have to be able to understand my dialect. And it would have to be fun. It would have to interest me. The other challenge is it needs to respond to kids. Now, if any of you have younger brothers or sisters, maybe you know that, My little sister is so hard to understand when she gets excited. She talks 1,000,000 miles a minute. This robot would have to be able to adapt to that. Okay, now let me switch back here. And we are going to take a look at components of robots. So, robots need to have sensors. Our body, we said, has fingers, tongue, ears. Those are all sensors. Robots need to have sensors. Does anyone want to go ahead and read this slide for me? Any volunteers? You don't need to read the bottom where it says answers. Lindsay, your hand was up first. Go right ahead.
Sensors in robots are similar to sensors in humans. They take information from their surroundings. There are two types of sensors. Type 1, a sensor that simply detects if something's there. Example, sound sensor that tells you whether it heard a sound. Type 2, a sensor that tells you more information about what it detects. Example, a sound sensor that tells you how loud a sound is.
Great. Now I put a question here in red and forgot to delete my answer. So the question is, can you give an example of a type 1 and a type 2 touch sensor? Well, a type 1 sensor would tell if you got touched or not. Yes, something touched it. No, it would not. Type 2 would tell you how hard something got touched. Now let's think about a very simple robot. Any robot you're familiar with. It could be my little vacuuming robot that I have that runs around my house in the mornings. Or it could be a fancy-dancy personal training robot like they're developing. Think about why a type 1 sensor that senses touch would be important. Raise your hand if you want to share. Go ahead, Isabella.
We wouldn't know if someone was trying to talk to you. So.
Okay, you were kind of hard to understand, but I think you said that it would be so it would know if it was talking to you. Okay, why else would a touch sensor be important? Clinton, let's see what you think.
If either a little vacuum cleaner is going and it hits a wall or something, it knows that to go somewhere else, to keep going in that direction.
Very good. My little robot knows that, uh-oh, I've hit the wall, I can't go anymore, from a touch sensor. Can anyone else think of another reason? Oh, Steven says he has a pool robot. Probably the same thing. They have touch sensors to tell where the edges of the pool are, would be my guess. Kyle, go right ahead.
If it was on a tablet or a device or something, and it could recognize your fingerprint, make sure it was you so nobody could steal it.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. All right, so we are going to look at parts of a robot now. The last little presentation showed us parts of a human. Now we're going to compare them to parts of a robot. So what makes up the nerves of a robot? The nerves of a robot are its wires. They send signal to the motors from the computer and to the computer from the sensors, just like our nerves in our body. So let's take a quick look about comparing humans and robots. A human senses using its 5 senses. A robot senses using their sensors. A human's decision-making is in the brain, and the robot's decision-making could be in, this was a Lego example, so an NXT brick, or it would be in the computer. The transmission of information for a human is through our nerves, and for a robot it is through our wires, or its wires. Humans move using their muscles, and robots use moving motors. So how does a motor help the robot move? Does anyone want to go ahead and read this for me, if you haven't read already? Go ahead, Kyle.
How do the motors help the robot move? The computer sends a command through the wires to the motor to rotate forward. The motor turns the wheels. The wheel then pushes against the ground and makes the robot move. Do you see how this is similar to how the brain tells muscles to move?
Thank you very much, Kyle. So who wants to explain to me how it is similar, how a motor helps a robot move is similar to how your brain tells your muscles to move? Go ahead, Isabella.
The computer sends commands to the wires, tells them to move, and
All right, Kyle, you want to give it a try as well? Go ahead.
When you walk, your brain sends signals to make your nerves move. On a robot, the computer or what controls it is what sends signals for its wheels and axles to turn.
All right, great job. Now let's take a look at a little bit more detail. Does anyone who has not yet want to read this slide? No new volunteers? Okay, then if you have already read and you want to read again, raise your hand. Go ahead, Joseph.
The robot runs out a program that has already been made and stored in its computer. Remember, the computer cannot decide to move the robot by itself. It needs a program. The robot does not know anything. It only can do what you tell it to do, nothing.
All right, great job. And that is the main difference between mainstream robots that are used now and robots of the future. Hope the thought is robots of the future will be able to make those decisions that robots now cannot. All right, would anybody like to go ahead and read this slide? Go ahead, Clinton.
you are going to sit your robot in front of a wall. What our problem should do is make the robot move forward until it gets closer to the wall. Then back up. Remember, we have to be very sensitive with the robot.
All right, great job. Now this was a robot that was getting a computer program written to move towards the wall. So the question is, how can we make sure the robot knows when it is going to hit the wall? What kind of sensors could you use? Okay, you'd need some sort of sensor. Kyle, go ahead.
It depends on how hard it gets or if any pressure goes on it, or even the sensor where if it gets close to something, it tells. Because I have a little robot that if it gets close to something, it'll automatically stop.
All right, fantastic. That's great. A pressure sensor, something that would sense the pressure of the wall. That's a very good thought. You're looking for some sort of type 1 sensor. Yes, it hit something. No, it didn't. Isabella wrote in the text chat that laser scanners so that it would sense the wall. That's a very good idea. Now let's see the ideas that I came up with. All right. Any volunteers to read this slide? Kyle, go ahead.
How do the motors help the robot move? Continue. The ultrasonic sensors send out a signal and wait until it bounces off of some object that comes back. It then sends a message to the computer through the wires, telling the computer how long it took for the signal to come back. The computer calculates how far away the object is. Thus, the ultrasonic sensor can help the robot decide if it is close to some object. Now let's program.
All right, awesome. Now, unfortunately, we are not going to program anything right now, but great job reading that. Now, this robot was using ultrasonic sensors, sort of like a laser sensor that Isabella was talking about, where it bounces off an object, comes back, and knows the distance from that object that it is. All right, fantastic. Now we are going to go ahead and take a look at some awesome robots that are in the makings. So let's explore some amazing robots. The first robot we are going to take a look at is a snake robot. Here is a picture of a snake robot. There were lots of different types of snake robots once I started looking into this. So let's take a look at the uses. Uses for a snake robot. They can be used for search and rescue in collapsed buildings. They can be used to carry out hazardous waste inspections and take material samples. And they can be used to explore places like ancient pyramids, places where it is difficult for humans to get. The advantages of a snake robot is they do not have wheels or legs, so they don't get stuck. Can anyone think of another advantage of a snake robot? Kyle, go ahead.
They're small and can get through little spots, just like a regular snake.
Awesome. They're so small they can go in little spots like a snake. Fantastic. Clinton, let's hear yours.
They can go into buildings that be hard for for search and rescue because they are small and they can get through and they can go over logs and different things.
Very good. They can move lots of different ways. Okay, they're not confined to how a tire moves or a track moves. And Isabella wrote they're so small that no one noticed them. And Dane put up there that they can go through small spaces. Great job. Now the science behind this robot. I told you that scientists use the human body to try to design their robots sometimes. Well, sometimes they use animals. We saw how the scientists used a gecko in, I think it was last week, the video. To make the snake robots, scientists studied 6 rattlesnakes at the Atlanta Zoo. What they did was they set up high-speed cameras in their tanks, put different types of obstacles in there to try to figure out how these snakes move. Now they were able to figure out that that snakes change the amount of their body that's touching the ground depending on the surface it is moving over. So when they were testing these robots, they were having a hard time and they kept slipping in sand. So what they did is the robots were slipping on the sand. So they programmed the robot so more of its body surface came in contact with the ground as it slid up the slope. This prevented the snake bots from slipping. Here we have a tentacle robot. Raise your hand if you've ever seen a tentacle robot before. Okay, well these tentacle robots were made with 2 goals in mind. They wanted to develop a robot that can adapt its shape and adapt to its environment. They wanted a non-factory robot, so a robot that you could use for real-life applications. Anyone have any ideas what you could use a robot like this for? Besides picking something up like they're doing in the picture. Clinton, what do you think?
They can use the tentacle robot for picking up people that fell in wells or something like that.
Very good idea for rescuing people in tight spaces. That would be a good thought. Anyone else have an idea? There are lots of uses. Kyle, go ahead.
To reach the places that it would be dangerous for your hand to go, or maybe your hand couldn't fit.
Very good. To go places where it's dangerous to go. We have to reach objects. I'm not sure what crushing eggs is for. I guess you could use it to crush eggs. I'm not sure how useful that is. Anyone have any other ideas for the tentacle robot? Well, let's take a look at what they're developing it for. It is being developed to use in space to inspect hard-to-reach gear on the International Space Station. They're also using it to explore dangerous areas like cracks in the moon, where it's just not feasible for people to go. The inspiration for this tentacle robot was animals They looked at the elephant's trunk, an octopus's arm, which to me is the one that it looks most like, a giraffe's tongue, and a monkey's tail. All four of those things, parts of the animals, can be used to grasp things, and they all use slightly different movements in order to grasp things. So this tentacle-armed robot is a combination of these four parts of the animal. Here we have an underwater robot. Any ideas what an underwater robot could be used for? I will give you a hint. It was developed by the Coast Guard. So why would the Coast Guard maybe want an underwater robot? Kyle.
So they could go deep under the ocean to look for ships, or maybe they could look for people out in the ocean where it'd be dangerous for the Coast Guard to go.
All right, very good. To go places where it's too dangerous for the Coast Guard to go. We have some testing for water chemicals, looking for sunken ships, looking for sharks or other things that's dangerous, to find sea life where it's too dark for people to go. And then, Clinton, did you have another one to add as well? Those are all fantastic.
So they can go and help find things that to help people out and to get video so they know that it's safe or not, so they can go rescue them.
All right, great job. This underwater robot, those are all great uses. This one was actually used for, and is used, to search out contraband on ships, like weapons and drugs. It's about the size of a football. It's waterproof, and one side of it is flat. So what it does is the Coast Guard puts them in the water. They control them using, it looks like, an Xbox controller right up to the side of the ship. And then it goes right along the hull or the bottom of the ship and scans it to see what's inside. It's sort of like a little portable X-ray machine, so that it can say, ooh, everything looks fine. This is just a ship of oranges. Or, uh-oh, I don't think so. There looks like there's something suspicious in the middle of all those oranges. And the Coast Guard can take a closer look. How does it work? It uses ultrasounds to scan and map the contents of a ship. It's the same idea when big box containers come to ports in the U.S. The big freight containers, they put them through an X-ray machine. And they look at them and say, ooh, something looks suspicious, or everything looks great. All right, and then we're back to our personal trainer robot, which we already talked about. So, this week for homework, your homework is to build something, whichever something you would like, out of your Connects kit. And then I want you to think about how you can make that machine, which is what you're building, into a robot. For example, if you build, let me just open to a page here. If you build the sawmill on page 27, you build it, I want you to look at it. Look at it built and think, what could I do to make this into a useful robot? What I want you to turn in is a paragraph explaining how you would make yours into a useful robot. So let me think quick about the sawmill. Okay. If I build my sawmill, my paragraph may be, if I had this sawmill from the Connects kit, and I had to add a computer to it to make a robot, I would have this robot be used to mix batter to the perfect consistency for perfect ice cream every time. I would program the computer using sensors so it knew how thick the ice cream had to be, or the batter had to be. And that might be my paragraph. Nothing fancy. If your Connects kit is not working for you, just do the best you can. I know someone had mentioned they were having a hard time putting pieces together. Do the best that you can. I'm going to put the assignment up in Moodle. I'm going to ask that you not build the same thing that either we have already built using our Connects kit, or something that we are going to build later on in class. So if you could keep that in mind, that would be great. Does anyone have any questions about the homework assignment? Kyle, go ahead.
How do you know what you're going to build later in the class?
In the beginning, I sent you guys a syllabus that had all of the things we were going to build, but I'll also put it in the directions. So I'll write the directions out, and then I will write, do not build the elevator, the fan, the Archimedes screw. I'll put them right in the directions for you. And I'll put the directions up in Moodle. All right, well, if you guys don't have any questions, I will see you next week. I hope you have a great week. Otherwise, I'll stay on for a minute or two, and you can go ahead and ask me the direction, or ask me the questions. Dane, if you want to share that picture, we will do that at the beginning of class next week. Just remind me. All right, I hope you guys have a great week.